Have you ever wondered why you keep attracting the same type of toxic relationships? Why do you find yourself seeking approval from people who can never truly satisfy that need? What if I told you that the answer isn't hidden in your romantic history, your career choices, or even your conscious thoughts, but in something far more fundamental? Your very first relationship, the one with your mother. Carl Jung discovered that this primal bond creates an invisible template that governs every connection you'll ever make. This isn't about mother bashing or dwelling in victimhood. This is about understanding the psychological architecture that has been quietly running your emotional life from the shadow. Now let's explore the hidden influence that may be the key to finally breaking free. From the moment you drew your first breath, your mother became your emotional universe. She wasn't just a caregiver. She was your first teacher of love, safety, and what it means to exist in relationship with another human being. Carl Jung recognized that the mother represents far more than a person. She embodies a powerful archetype that gets encoded into your unconscious mind, like invisible software programming your emotional responses. This maternal archetype becomes the lens through which you interpret every future relationship. It shapes your expectations of love, your tolerance for conflict, your sense of self-worth, and even your capacity for intimacy. Whether your mother was nurturing or neglectful, emotionally available or distant, controlling or permissive, her emotional signature becomes the background music of your inner world. It's like learning a language. You absorb the rhythm, the tone, the unspoken rules of emotional exchange before you can even speak. The profound truth that Jung discovered is that most of us live our entire lives unconsciously recreating this. First relationship. We seek partners who feel familiar, even when that familiarity is rooted in dysfunction. We repeat patterns that feel like home, even when home was a place of emotional scarcity. The mother's influence doesn't end with childhood. It echoes through every boardroom, every bedroom, every moment of self-doubt or self-compassion. And the most haunting part? Most of us have no idea we're dancing to this ancient rhythm. Your body remembers what your mind has forgotten. The nervous system of a 3-year-old child doesn't distinguish between a mother's momentary frustration and a fundamental threat to survival. When emotional needs went unmet, when love felt conditional, when safety felt uncertain, your psyche developed strategies to survive. These weren't conscious choices. They were adaptations that allowed you to maintain connection with the person you depended on most. Jung called these survival strategies complexes, autonomous psychological patterns that operate below the level of conscious awareness. You might find yourself becoming a people pleaser, constantly scanning for signs of disapproval. You might become hyper-independent, unable to ask for help because vulnerability once felt dangerous. Or you might become emotionally volatile, recreating the intensity that felt like love in your early environment. These patterns follow you into adulthood, like loyal but misguided servants. You might choose partners who are emotionally unavailable because that's what love felt like growing up. You might sabotage relationships when they become too stable because chaos feels more familiar than peace. You might exhaust yourself trying to earn love through achievement, never realizing that the voice demanding perfection isn't your own. It's an echo from your earliest emotional education. The tragedy is that these patterns operate completely outside your awareness. You think you're making conscious choices, but you're actually responding to triggers that were set decades ago. Your adult relationships become unconscious attempts to heal childhood wounds, but without awareness, they often recreate the same dynamics that caused the wounding in the first place. Even in families that look functional from the outside, subtle forms of conditional love can leave lasting psychological scars. Perhaps love was only expressed when you achieved, when you were good. when you didn't cause problems. Maybe affection came with strings attached, emotional manipulation disguised as care. Or perhaps your mother's love was inconsistent, available, when she was happy but withdrawn when she was stressed, leaving you to conclude that love was something you had to earn and could easily lose. Children are meaning-making machines. When love feels conditional, they don't blame the parent. They blame themselves. They conclude that they must not be lovable as they are. This creates what psychologists call core shame, a deep-seated belief that there's something fundamentally wrong with who you are. This shame becomes the hidden operating system of your self-concept. As adults, people with conditional love imprints become approval addicts. They chase external validation like a drug, but no amount of success, praise, or recognition can fill the void left by unconditional love never received. They might become workaholics, perfectionists, or people-pleasers, unconsciously trying to earn the love they never got to experience as a birthright. The cruel irony is that the harder you try to earn love, the more you confirm the unconscious belief that you're not worthy of it freely given. You create relationships where you're always performing, always proving your worth, never able to rest in the simple fact of being loved for who you are. This creates an exhausting cycle where love becomes labor and intimacy becomes a performance, rather than a refuge. If this exploration is helping you recognize patterns in your own life, consider sharing this video with someone who might benefit from these insights. And if you'd like to support this kind of deep, transformative content, you can click the thanks button below. Your support helps us continue bringing you these essential psychological insights. Now, let's explore how to break free from these ancient patterns. Carl Jung called the process of psychological liberation individuation, the journey of becoming who you truly are beneath the adaptive strategies you learned for survival. This doesn't mean rejecting your mother or your past. It means seeing both clearly, without the distortion of childhood perception or adult resentment. Individuation begins with a radical shift in perspective. Instead of seeing your mother as the all-powerful figure from your childhood, you begin to see her as a human being, flawed, wounded, doing her best with the tools she had. This doesn't excuse harmful behavior, but it frees you from the unconscious belief that her limitations were your fault, or that her approval is necessary for your worth. The key question becomes, who am I when I'm not trying to get love, avoid, abandonment, or prove my worth? This question can be terrifying because it requires you to let go of the strategies that once felt like survival, but it's also liberating because it opens the door to authentic self-expression. Jung taught that we must withdraw our projections, stop making other people responsible for giving us what we never received. This means no longer looking to romantic partners to be the nurturing mother you never had. It means no longer seeking from bosses the approval you never got at home. It means recognizing that the authority figures in your life are just people, not gods whose opinion determines your value. The ultimate goal of individuation is to become your own good parent, to offer yourself the unconditional love, boundaries, and support that you needed as a child. This isn't selfish, it's essential. Only when you can mother yourself can you enter relationships from wholeness rather than neediness. Understanding is the beginning, but transformation requires deliberate action. Start by developing emotional awareness. When you feel triggered, anxious, angry, desperate for approval, pause and ask, how old do I feel right now? Often you'll discover that your emotional response is much younger than your chronological age. This is your inner child reacting to current circumstances through the lens of past wounds. Create a daily practice of emotional check-ins. Notice when you're performing for love versus expressing authentic feelings. Pay attention to your body's responses. Does your chest tighten when someone seems displeased? Do you feel a familiar panic when someone is emotionally unavailable? These physical responses are your nervous system's way of alerting you to old patterns. Practice setting boundaries without guilt. If love was conditional in your family, boundary setting might feel like risking abandonment. But healthy boundaries are actually expressions of self-love. They communicate that you value yourself enough to protect your emotional well-being. Learn to comfort yourself when you're upset. Instead of immediately reaching for external validation, practice offering yourself the comfort you need. Put your hand on your heart. Speak to yourself with compassion. Remind yourself that you're worthy of love, not because of what you do, but because of who you are. Most importantly, practice making decisions from your authentic self rather than from fear of disapproval. Ask yourself, what would I choose if I knew I was unconditionally loved? This question can guide you toward decisions that honor your true self rather than your adaptive strategies. As you practice these new ways of being, something remarkable begins to shift. The desperate need for approval starts to fade. You stop contorting yourself to fit other people's expectations. You begin to trust your own judgment, your own feelings, your own worth. Relationships become less about getting your needs met and more about sharing your authentic self. You might notice that you're no longer attracted to people who are emotionally unavailable. Drama starts to feel exhausting rather than exciting. You begin to value stability, kindness, and genuine connection over intensity and chaos. The partners you attract begin to reflect your new relationship with yourself. Your mother's influence doesn't disappear, but it transforms from unconscious control to conscious choice. You can appreciate the gifts she gave you while releasing the limitations she passed on. You honor her humanity while claiming your own. The relationship becomes one of two adults rather than a child seeking approval from a parent. When you heal your relationship with the mother archetype, you don't just transform your own life, you interrupt generational patterns of unconscious wounding. Jung believed that the individual's psychological work serves the collective healing of humanity. By becoming conscious of the patterns you inherited, you ensure they don't get passed on to the next generation. This work isn't about achieving perfection or erasing your past. It's about integration, taking the wisdom from your experiences while releasing the pain. It's about seeing clearly, feeling deeply, and choosing consciously. The mother gave you your first story, but the rest of the book is yours to write. If this message resonated with you, share your insights in the comments below. Your reflections help create a community of conscious healing and might be exactly what someone else needs to hear. Freedom, because understanding your mother isn't the end of your healing journey, it's the beginning of your authentic life.